This is Frank Underwood, and you're listening to American Lunchbox Podcast, and you're gonna love every minute of it.
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, welcome to American Lunchbox Podcast! Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. You are in the Lunchbox Podcast. Welcome back. Thank you guys for coming. We appreciate you guys. Love you guys. Thank you for your support. Of course, we got a good show for you today. All right. I don't know exactly how much you all have been keeping up with what's been going on, guys. But I know that only a very little has changed, but our scope has broadened, if you know what I'm talking about. So as we get into understanding where we are right now with all of what's been going on in politics, your president, your new president, we're still stuck. Right. We're still stuck in the muck and the Maury clay. So as we begin to continue to talk about this, because we have nothing else but this in the news, Tim, has much changed since we last talked?
Oh, Mr. Battle, I can't believe that that you could say that nothing's changed. On Sunday, the president of these United States, Donald J. Trump, announced on Twitter that he won the election. So,
Wait a minute. That sounds like fake news to me. Hold on. Are you telling me that Trump on Twitter said that he won the election last Sunday?
That's right, George. Or this last Sunday, yes. He won it. I mean, so it's official.
And see, this is what I'm talking about, ladies and gentlemen. This is exactly the bullshit that we've been having to deal with over the last 2 weeks. Enough of this. At a certain point, we have to take responsibility for not necessarily our present, but our future. And if we can't get to it, then how the hell are we going to be able to properly prepare the next regime, the next administration for what would be the national security to keep this country and the American people safe? Chris, what the fuck is going on?
George, you're acting like the next administration hasn't been prepared for 4 years for this very moment. There is a time that's going to pass, and as these lawsuits get strucken down or taken up, the time will pass. So I suggest you, for your mental health at this point, turn off the news.
I can't stop drinking these espressos. I can't stop drinking brown liquor. I can't stop listening to heavy gangster rap music, because in my head, all I'm saying is to myself is, where are we? What is going on? This is what I do know. I know that Joe Biden, right, is the president-elect. I do recognize that all media, all of the media outlets, including Fox,
all of the legacy ones,
all of the ABCs, the NBCs, the CBSBCs, the SBWWCs, all of those have already decided that Biden will be the president, 46. I also realize that in most states where there was any disruption, any question about what happened during the balloting process have been cleared. I do recognize that there has been some discrepancies in some states like Georgia, where there's going to be a runoff for the Senate race. I do recognize that. But I also recognize that in tradition in this country, and you know how this country loves tradition, right? Traditionally, there is a passing of the torch, much like the Olympics that we didn't have this year, but because of the COVID. But usually there's a passing of the torch where a sitting president will open the doors to the White House. Not to say that Biden doesn't know what the hell is in there, but still. Open the doors of the White House, open the secret books, talk to the next president, write him a nice note, send him on his way, even if he agrees or disagrees. This is the bipartisan way to handle this situation. But your president refuses to stop being the president. This is not a conspiracy. This is the truth. So now that we're looking at this from the big picture, the question becomes, Chris, does he have to concede?
George, he has to concede once he has to concede. I mean, what's happening right now is, look, we talked last week about media having such a big role in all of this. And what's happening now is that the media is not planned to have any patience. And this is going to take a few weeks to figure out. And we talked about the media revving this situation up and poking at Trump and his base. And the real story, I think, of the last week is what seems to be the impending divorce between the two bubbles, which once touched in our country, which seem to no longer be touching. We now, in the last week, have seen the rise of alternative platforms and media companies and the complete reshuffling of the news companies. So I understand that you're saying the news companies have called something and called this man president-elect, which he most likely will become. But that all is, if they were educating the public instead of revving them up, they would let them know that you actually have to be elected by electors first, which has not happened yet. So if we're talking about the media companies like CNN, which is about to be sold again because they're losing a ton of money because of all the Trump hate, or we're talking about Fox, which doesn't know if they should go with their base or go with the center market share that CNN's opened up by going so anti-Trump, or MSNBC, who has an angry progressive base who is calling them right wing at this point. So we are in a situation in which, you're right, this is a toxic holding pattern, but that also is not worth fighting. Look, these are, like we said last week, these are legal battles. Why are we going to go crazy arguing with each other over them? At some point, the legal battles will fail or they'll succeed, and at a certain point, the clock will run out for Trump. End of the story. I mean, I don't think it's worth fighting with you guys or even taking a stance that's argumentative about this. Tim? We'll have a new president. They'll be sworn in on the 20th. Whoever it is, most likely looks like it's going to be Biden at this point.
Oh, well, it'll definitely be Biden. I mean, there's no doubt about that. I mean, the Supreme Court would have to really sit there and to overturn an election like that would be unprecedented. And it's not just one state; it's multiple states that we've talked about.
Right.
And and talking about the lawsuits, I mean, his lawsuits have gone kind of nowhere. I mean, his evidence or lack thereof has just been laughed out of court. So most of the states right now, most of the states and the judges that are in charge of either doing recounts or judging whether or not there was any shenanigans going on, have just laughed it out of court. Now there was recently, I guess, in Georgia, there was, I think, 2,600 votes that were found in a not necessarily for Trump, but just in a Republican heavy district in Georgia, and they were counted during the recount, and that's why we have recounts.
Tim, you there?
You see, now, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, those of you all here in podcast land. We're looking at what we call a freeze frame, right? A freeze frame is when a person in video, right? Not necessarily audio necessarily, but in this case, it's both audio and video, where a person becomes just frozen. Now, over in YouTube land, you and I are all watching this guy, the tech guy, the one who decides all of what goes on, elects to have the biggest malfunctions. Now, I don't know. We're only 10 minutes into the podcast, ladies and gentlemen. So I don't know if we should just continue on without him. Will he come back? I don't know. Should we just punch him in? Chris, what say ye, sir?
Well, I think what we should do is comment on how nice Tim's upgraded set is. He's got he has a nice back blue curtain. He's got some Christmas lights. He's got a computer monitor just as a picture frame running our icon, which looks nice. But I think all of these extra electrical expenditures have unfortunately hurt his Skype for the time being.
Hashtag I'm an idiot. So,
well, here's the thing, George. What Tim was saying is that Trump doesn't have to flip all the states, because we're looking at this as a campaign for president. But what if this is just a PR campaign? What if he flips one? What happens if he flips one?
No, well, it sets a precedence. And and what it does, much like everything else doing this year, it just expands us to a different place that we've never seen before. Now, if Trump actually flips one, which would be unprecedented, it actually moves the whole game to another level. Not necessarily now, but for the future. You see? So when we're talking about what the possibilities are and how aggressive you have to respond to things, and what there would be, we can guarantee that this will always be the SOP, or the standard operating procedure, for all elections to come. It just has to be. And again, Trump is hunting for a legacy here. When I tell you he's hunting, he's doing everything he can to. Tim, he's back. Welcome back to the podcast. Welcome back to American Lunchbox Podcast, Tim.
All right. May have to do some fancy editing on that one.
Basically, Tim, we lost you for a second there, but basically, my counterpoint was that I think this is more of a PR situation for Trump, in which I don't know if he can flip all the states, but if he flips one, that's such a feather in the cap to talk shit for the next 4 years.
And on top of that, it sets a new precedence for elections, which is what will be his legacy work. You have to remember that Trump is in an effort right now, much like you said, Chris, it's a campaign. It's something that is ongoing. It's a rally. It's talking points that he will be able to use as he moves forward in his political career. Remember, what he's fighting against is his own history. How is he going to be perceived? Because he's a one in, one out president. Only Republicans, since I've been able to vote, have been one in and one out presidents, starting with George Bush Sr., one in and one out, and everyone else, 2 terms.
No, George W. did 2 terms.
No. W. Bush Sr. did only 1 term.
Correct.
And Donald Trump has only done 1 term. Every other president since then has all done 2 terms. They've all have been able to move their agenda forward for 16 years. Or I'm sorry, for 8 years. Excuse me, for 8 years.
Right.
So
the difference is that the base under Bush, the conservative base, was split. That's why he lost. In this case, you have a base which is completely unified, and a candidate lost, and that candidate also. That's why it's hard to tell with Trump, because he has floated conspiracy theories, right? Did Ted Cruz really kill JFK? Did Ted Cruz's dad really kill JFK? I'm still waiting. Right, but here's the thing, George. We don't have evidence, and Tim, of a rigged election in terms of votes. But what we do have evidence of is that the election was censored. And
I'll give you that.
From the point of view of those people, those 70 million people, there's going to be a lot of time to sift through how it was censored, methodically, systematically, coordinated. Who knew what when? What decisions were made on how to censor this? So when you're using the term rigged, like some people say that, the problem was that the media took Trump literally but not seriously, and his base took him seriously but not literally. At this point, they're so galvanized that whether he wins or not, I saw him drive through a crowd of hundreds of people. He drove through the crowd. Could you imagine these Secret Service guys? They're probably wishing this guy goes away, because they literally had more people than hands to block him with. And there was one guy they drove past in the middle of that pack of U-Haul. Could you imagine if that was your moving day and the Trump show came to town while you were trying to get your couch in the fucking up the ramp? This is an incredible situation, and it's not going to go away.
And it's not going to go away. And be mindful. He has money, he has time, and he has energy. What I call the trifecta. And with all that, he could definitely put forth a campaign starting today. And I'm going to call it right here on this show. I'm going to call it that Trump is going to run for president again. I don't think that there will be a more influential candidate in the next 4 years in the Republican Party. And whether you all like it or not, one thing's for sure, Trump has a good way of keeping the water boiling and his foot on the gas. So
Right.
he's going to ram through these next 4 years as if he has nothing else to do but to make sure that he stays relevant. He's going to comment on every opportunity. He's going to be a part of every political conversation, whether we like it or not. And I'm going to also call this: the media is going to love it.
It'll keep them afloat. That's the sick thing about it. If he really wanted revenge on them, he'd go away for a couple months and let them die.
Yeah. Now, I kind of disagree with you, George, about the energy factor. I mean, he spent more time on the golf course than he did in the White House. So I don't really know that he's got a lot of energy. And, in another, I mean, what is he, like 74 right now or something like that? He's going to be, 78 or whatever in 4 years. I don't see him running for president again. I really don't.
Here's the thing, Tim and George, regardless of if it's Trump or not, what everyone in the media was concerned about, or a sizable enough portion, was Trump 2020, but they missed the letter, because what looks like is going to happen is, regardless if Trump is the head of it or lives to see the day that there would be a potential another election, is that it's going to be Trump 2020s with a little S at the end. Because I think this whole generation, this whole decade is going to be what the 1960s was to liberals, which was there's something boiling under the surface. The mainstream is suppressing it, but at a certain point, it's going to pop. And it's going to pop in ways that they're going to say, we're no longer playing by your rules. You're going to ban us on this company, we're going to get our own platform. You're going to ban us off those internet servers, we'll get our own internet servers. Entertainment's taken over by you, here's our new entertainment company. The school systems are infested with your ideology. Here's a new school. It's credentialed. It's our credentials. I think that's what's going to happen here.
But see, now that sounds kind of cultish, though. You see, now we're talking about building an infrastructure. We're talking about building.
So does our current college. Our current college system's pretty cultish as it is.
It is.
So we're talking about competition. We're talking about people who were previously the alternative now saying, no, we're competing. It sounds like what this is happening here.
But we're talking about the Republican Party. We're not talking about a party that spawned. Now, if you're talking about creating a new party, then I definitely would agree that is a potential landscape or trajectory for that. But I don't think the Republican Party, based on its history and its tradition, is going to stand around and allow itself to be manipulated by all of what the future. They're so vested on their tradition. You see, the Republican Party is split conservative. I mean, they do have their niches. They do have their ideology. They come together when it comes to voting, they come together, but their ideology. So just because you create something that looks Republican, you still have to say, what kind of Republican is it? Now, if they can put their heads together and decide on that. But again, we're talking about 4 years. We're talking about this has been going on for a long time.
Look at the Tea Party Republicans. They made a big stink, in Obama's first term. You haven't heard anything from them. They made a few rounds. They changed a few policies. They kind of turned the Republican Party on its ass for a few years or whatever. But they just kind of evolved into a few senators and a few people here and there. The Republican Party just kind of absorbed them, and they didn't become a viable third party. So I think it's the same with the Trumpians.
There's a big thing you're missing here. I think both of you are potentially missing. While the Republicans are split on economics between populists and conservatives, they're quite similar culturally. And if you have someone that says, we're banning all of you guys, that creates a consensus that doesn't just show up in election years. So the Republican infrastructure might now be looking at the DNC and saying, you know what? That's a superstructure. That's a cultural superstructure. Hollywood, social media, national security infrastructure. There's a union here that we don't understand, and it's not exactly out in the open. Time to make our own union. I think that's what's going to happen. I'm not saying it's good for the country. I don't like it when I see it on the other side, but I think that's what's going to happen, because culturally, you now have people that feel like they cannot express themselves. And you now have potential opportunities of people who no longer want to tune into the current traditional ways of doing things and media structures. So, like George is saying, there's potential for growth financially, and networks and entertainment and everything. I mean, this is not just going to go away till next election season. I just don't see that at this point.
I don't see it going away either. But I don't know what seeds are going to be sold. I don't know how the grassroots, because realistically, it's the grassroots organizations, the individuals. It's those ones who are hardcore Trump supporters. Now, I have to, first of all, just for the record, understand that there are two entities that are involved and that were involved in this election. There were one, a Trump supporter, and then there was one, a Trump voter. Okay, so you could have been a Trump voter and not necessarily been a Trump supporter.
True.
And because of this, right, you find that there's a divide because, again, the Republican Party. There are people who will vote Republican, that will vote Republican lines. They're going to vote straight Republican down, just like Democrats vote straight Democrat down the line. But in the case of the Republican this time, it really stood out to me how there were people who were secretly and privately voting for Trump because of their ideologies and how their beliefs, but they couldn't be public with it because the sounds and the emphasis of the Trump supporters and who they represented, because they had to sit hand in hand with people who they didn't necessarily agree with how they actually operated. I'm talking about the grassroots.
Right.
And that's how you get things like the Mega Million March. I know you guys heard about this thing.
Oh God, yeah.
Right?
Right.
Well,
But again, I think that's cultural. Like in 4 years, if there's a venue where you could openly express yourself, there might be people that are more open about it.
Maybe
Sorry,
so.
I didn't mean to cut you.
Again,
I didn't mean to cut you off, George.
No, but the thing is that, and again, the difference between cult and party, the difference between followers and voters. This is the distinction that I'm making right now. You know, there's a distinction with Trump because he represents a divide in the party. He represents a divide. But when at the end of the day, like any divide, they show up and they unify. And this is how we get 70 million people voting for Trump. They don't all agree. They don't all see the future the same, but they showed up and they showed out. But it is that part when we talk about who will take part in the culture. When we talk about culture, we talk about language. We talk about ability to communicate. We talk about sensitivities and how we speak to one another. This is culture, right? When we talk about who's going to participate in this culture publicly, will it be the Trump supporters or the Trump voter? This is
right
the part
now,
where I say I don't know if that will work.
But it's going to be a cultural push where I think they're seeing that what's happening is that between entertainment and education, that young people are being churned out as left-wing voters. And there's going to be a serious push to change the balance here. And, we talk about the Million MAGA March, whatever it's called, right? So, right now the news is snickering because there's about 50,000, 100,000 people there, right? But what also happened there is that the events were canceled by the different tech platforms. The meetup pages were like scooped away. So there was suppression there, which is further galvanizing. So if you're not saying you guys, but the media, like if you're snickering at this group and you're continuing to fuck with their ability to freely assemble and express themselves, you might be snickering in a year from now when when Trump brands it the Billion March, and then you're going to say, but there was only 2.1 million there. Well, that's a growing trend.
No, and I totally agree with you. And Chris, I see eye to eye with the potential of that statement. I know, I just don't know how it's going to. In my head, I don't know how it's going to be disseminated. Because that's the issue, is dissemination. Ideas need to get out. And that's when you talk about platforms. That's when you talk about the news, the dissemination of it. My issue is that if you acknowledge this and you build something, as you're saying, we're going to build our own networks, which is fine. Republicans have tried this before on talk radio. Even though they dominate talk radio, I'm sorry, Democrats have tried this before on talk radio. Even though Republicans dominate talk radio, the Democrats tried to put in a few years ago, tried to install these liberal type shows nationally and syndicatedly, and they failed horribly because that particular lane belongs to the Republicans, and it's hard to bring them back. But this is what I'm talking about when I'm talking about Republicans can't replace Hollywood. Republicans can't, because it's not going to work. The roots are too ingrained into what they've been doing over 100 years to be able for Republicans in the next 10 years to be able to succumb.
Yeah, I agree
what they could do, to transform. Now, maybe in the long term, I can see, but I don't even think they have to do that. If Trump, my thing is Trump. I'm gonna say this and then let you talk. My thing is Trump. Trump is a battering ram. Okay, he just slams through your door. He sucks the room out of the air.
Kool-Aid man.
He knows how to draw the media because they need it. He knows how to raise money. He knows. I'm talking about him solamente only. He could do this on his own because he won the presidency on his own without the Republican Party. Remember, George Bush Jr. and George Bush Sr. didn't vote for him. They were public. I'm not voting for Trump. None of the Bushes voted for Trump. They didn't vote for him at all.
Well, yeah. Well, look what he did to Jeb. Would you vote for him if he did that to your brother?
Well, yes, I would, because again, it's my privilege. I can't send them a message that just because my brother lost, but that's what they did. I'm telling you, he's a battering ram, whether I agree with him or disagree with him.
Right.
He's a battering ram.
I agree.
And until you do something about that, he's going to continue to win.
I agree with your point about not being able to compete on the Hollywood side. I think on the news front, they're going to try to compete. But on the Hollywood side, I agree with you. It will be what it wasn't before, which is an alternative. Now, I've seen some conservative movies. I watched the Atlas Shrugged movie that made a couple years back. It was ideological. It sucked. Honestly, conservative movies kind of suck. But who's to say it has to be a film? Who's to say it can't be this? Hey, don't all you people out there hate what happened to Roseanne Barr? We're going to have a show starring Roseanne Barr. Maybe we can't call it Roseanne. Maybe we call it the Roseanne Chronicles. She's still got a show. Yep. She just don't got a show where she wanted to, but she's got a show here. You want to subscribe to our platform where Roseanne has a show? Do you think she was treated unfairly?
And that's where I think, there's a lot of media outlets that are sitting there saying that Trump's going to be, the next, news commentator, or he's going to be on Fox News, or he's going to start his own thing, or be on Breitbart or Newsmax or any of that stuff. I think personally, if you look at his history, every decade he's kind of been something else. I think in the post presidency, I think he's going to try to rebrand himself as something completely different. I don't think he's going to try to go into news. Maybe he will try to go more entertainment, or as Chris was saying, maybe some scripted TV or something, or be more of a producer where it's like, okay, he's working not behind the scenes, but he's out there getting his message out or whatever through some other means. But he will definitely be in the limelight because he can't resist that shit. But maybe I think his thing is, look at Howard Stern. When Howard Stern went from terrestrial radio to paid radio, yeah, okay, he had a lot more freedom to go out there and say whatever he wanted to without being censored or without being hassled by the man or anything like that, or being fined by the FCC. But he lost a lot of viewership. He lost a lot of visibility, and I think that's something that Trump doesn't want to do. He doesn't want to be like a subscription base, or he doesn't want to have this go on like a Netflix or a streaming app or something like that where only a handful of people get to view him and spit out his hate talk or whatever. He wants that limelight. He wants, people to sit there and see him. So I think he's going to try to do maybe like something like another Apprentice or another, something where it's just him, but he's not trying to be president, but he's just trying to be him. And he gets to maybe downplay some of the political stuff, but he gets to be entertaining. And again, he's going to try to rebrand himself.
And ladies and gentlemen,
That's
as Tim was talking, if you're listening
a lot of
to
shaking
this
heads
on your podcast, if you're listening to this to any of your podcast outlets, the whole time Tim was talking, I was shaking my head because you all don't realize something. I think you guys do not understand something about Trump. Now, it could be I understand because maybe I too have this same philosophy. in regards to how, in my head, how things work. You know, now I'm not saying I'm aligning myself with Trump. I don't say I think like Trump. I'm not saying that. Okay. But what I am saying is this: Trump does not like to lose. He's not going to go backward. He's not going to go pick up something that he had done before and that he has been successful. That's in the past. He's not going to go back and do another show. That's not on his forecast. What he's doing, he's looking forward. He's looking at something bigger. He's looking at something greater. If I can't be the president of the United States, then what else can I be? And I'm telling you, in this country, there's nothing bigger than that. So that's why I'm telling you, he's going to continue to do what he's going to do. He doesn't want a cable company. He doesn't want another show. He wants to be president of the United States, my friends. And he's not going to stop because he lost. And he won't admit that he lost. So what he has to do instead is he has to win again. That's the mentality of an ego that cannot be tamed. It's the mentality of an ego that will not reside in any other place but at the winner's circle. And this is what drives him. This in his head, this is what allows him to sleep and wake up in 2 hours and let's do it again. And everybody else is saying, bro, I mean, is that vitamin B14 or vitamin B17? What the fuck are you taking? You know, that ain't B12.
You're saying why go for a minor title when you could keep going for world titles? And at this point, this might go global. George, if you say you don't share the same ideas as Trump, then why did I find this book when I was at your house? Shit, Trump Says MAGA edition. And why was it open to this page from an interview with Esquire magazine? It really doesn't matter what the media write as long as you've got a young and beautiful piece of ass. George, is that you? Was that your point of view? Was that why you were on that page?
And this is why I don't like. And this is why I don't let you in my shit. You see, this is why.
Why are you over his house? That's what I want to know.
Look at this from a press conference in 2016. And this was bookmarked. You think I'm going to change? I'm not changing.
You see, ladies and gentlemen, this is why you don't let friends in your house. This is why you don't allow people to come over your house and you go to the bathroom and all of a sudden they have free reign. All of a sudden you see shit missing. Man, listen.
This page is worn out, George. You must have been on this page a lot. This is from an interview with Fortune magazine from 2004. I'm just a fucking businessman.
Oh, man. Listen,
I can't say there aren't similarities there, George.
Listen, Linda. Slow down. What I was saying was, just to be clear, I understand the mentality of a crazy man. I understand the mentality of a person who just will never, ever think that giving up is an option. I will never lose because even when I lose, I win. I'm going to use the loser as an opportunity to win more. It's like at poker. Just because you win a hand doesn't mean you're not going to win the game. You just keep playing, just like in basketball. When you miss a shot, what's the way that you can make sure, obviously, that you continue to do well is to keep shooting until you make it. So that's the mentality that he has. And I'm telling you all, that he is not going to give up this ever.
Well, and you make a good point is that a part of the reason that people gave Trump any kind of attention, the part of the biggest reason he got the ratings and got the attention that he got was because he was either running for president or that he became president. When that's gone, he loses so much. He loses that big microphone. And there's so much of it that he's going to lose.
No.
Yes, people will pay attention to him for a while. Yeah, he's going to get his attention, but he's going to lose so much of it because people are going to say he's gone. Goodbye. Let's stop paying attention to this guy.
No, just the opposite. The media needs him because it's going to get sleepy, and the media has earned a lot of money in the last 4 years. You don't understand, Tim, the economic value of Trump and what he's done for media. I'm telling you, they need him because they've earned X amount of dollars over the last 4 years, and they're not going to go back to making that Democratic money. They're not gonna go back to making the Obama money. They want this Trump money, whether it be Trump there or not. And I'm telling you, they're going to keep poking and poking and poking at him. They're going to keep an eye on him. Yeah. They're going to keep an APB out on everywhere he is. They're going to keep a microphone. They're going to keep a microphone
and the reason
in
for
his
that,
bathroom. They're waiting for something to drop at all times.
And the reason for that is so they don't ever have to look in the mirror.
Well, he makes a great boogeyman. I mean, that's really what he is. It's like, oh, you don't like this? Give us money. Otherwise, this big giant boogeyman's going to come over here and get reelected, or he's gonna run for election or whatever. And then, yeah, like I said, he's a good fundraiser for the Republicans. So yeah, I agree on that end of it. But I'm not putting it past him that he can't run again, because he can technically. But I don't know whether 4 years is a long way off. I mean, I wouldn't put anything past him. I think the one thing we've learned from Trump is don't underestimate him. But, I think that one's a long shot. And then what's he going to do? Only do one term? I mean, the Constitution says he can only do 8 years total, whether that's consecutive or non-consecutive terms.
Well, didn't we also learn
that means he has 4 more years left of this. But didn't we also? He has 4 more years left.
Well, didn't we also learn about Trump? Like, you don't get him wet, you don't feed him after midnight. Yeah, actually, he loves bright light in this case.
Exactly. Don't get him wet, because he starts to multiply, and that's how you get 70 million of them.
Or could he become a kingmaker and one of his kids or Kushner or somebody else run in his place?
No, he wants it. He doesn't want it for his kids. Could he be VP or something? He doesn't want it for his kids. Yeah. He wants it for himself. He wants it for himself. He's an ego-driven maniac. Yeah. Ego-driven. I'm telling you, he doesn't want to give it to anybody. He doesn't want to hand it off to anybody. He wants it all for himself.
He's really is Republican Bulworth.
I tell you, man. But with all that being said, man, you know what?
I think Republican Mrs. Buttersworth, actually. But
hey, Chris, how was your week this week, brother?
Well, pretty good. I was listening. Wait a second, George. Hold on. I'm getting some breaking news here from the BBC. We've been talking about my radio is acting up. You're listening to the BBC World News Report. I was analyzing the different media companies shifting left and right, and I started thinking, what is the BBC's bias? And then I said, you know what? I think their bias is towards storytelling. Specifically, maybe with their history of colonization, they kind of they kind of go to every different country, don't ask if they can overstep boundaries, and then they view human behavior, non-British human behavior, as like a nature documentary. So hold on, let me tell you, let me give you an example of some things I've heard on the BBC, okay? I've been studying this.
All right, go for it.
This is my first time impression, so bear with me.
Hold on, let me set this up for you. For those of you all who are listening out in podcast land who can't see this, Chris is now holding a small transistor radio with the words BBC World News on it as into the camera. And he's going to, at this point, give us the BBC News of the Day.
Biloxi, Mississippi, the U.S., a nation balancing on the edge of a razor. There's been unrest for months, but now a new challenger has entered the arena. The weekly protests have gone from anti-Trump to now both pro and anti-Trump. The newly branded unsilent majority was out in full force, fully color coordinated. A new red scare, this time from the right. Here we see a BBC reporter running up behind a man loading an AR-15. Sir, what are you planning on doing with that? I ain't trying to hear that fake news CNN. We're not CNN. We're the BBC. Oh, all right, listen up right quick. He went on to say he voted for Trump to protect him from Antifa. But since he said the election was tampered with, that democracy has been stolen, he now have to take matters into his own hands. Potentially his cold, dead hands. Initial requests to gain interviews with the anti-fascists on the other side were met with violence. One man threw a Powerade bottle, filled with a neon yellow liquid. We knew we had to dig deeper undercover. Seen here, we had our reporter gain their trust by knocking over all the city trash cans in a 2-block ratio. Take that, you fucking piggy! Then they opened up. This black hooded, blue-haired activist said U.S. democracy was a sham, that the liberals who just won the election were actually right-wing, that everyone was right. We kept focusing on that one soundbite, that everyone is right and no one is wrong. The activist's hair was bright as the blue sky, recently cleaner thanks to reduced auto traffic. As both tribes focused on each other, no one realized how clear the air was becoming. You have listened to the BBC World News Report. There you go. First time.
Well, Chris, thank you for that segment on the BBC. We look forward to hearing more from you from the BBC and our international news. Thank you, Tim. Thank you, Chris. Chris, Tim.
Thank you.
We just heard from the BBC. Tim, what do you think, my good friend? How was your week this week?
My week was really good. Well, as you can see, I've been kind of busy down here in my home studio, setting up everything. Getting a nice background, and making it look nice. I got the Christmas lights going, and a little festive. Chris doesn't seem to like it. I sent him a photo of it, and posted it on our Facebook and Instagram account. I think I need to invite Chris over.
Man. You know how
Chris
he is, bro.
Chris needs to come over here and be my production person or something, and he can be my production designer.
Would you take? Look at his shit. Would you take advice from this dude? Look at his production design.
I'm just saying, with a couple more Christmas lights, I think Tim could become a cam girl.
Oh man, well, in that case, don't put any more Christmas lights up, Tim, because Lord knows we don't want anyone to suggest anything pornish on that set over there. So don't put any more lights up. That's it. Take that advice for sure. Take that advice.
I'm gonna put a poll back here. How's that, just for Chris?
Oh, there you go. And invite him over. I got
excited by the old ladies got me last week. I don't want Tim to get me this week.
Oh man, put your comments below, please. Put your comments below. Wow, but it looks good, Tim. You did a good job, brother.
Thank you,
I like it. I like it a lot, man. It definitely brings it all together, considering the fact of where you were upstairs. Now you're downstairs. You got your little space. I heard you even got a lock on the door or something.
Oh yeah. I'm not messing around. It's all combo locks and all that, and because I've got toys back here. I don't want to get them stolen. But I'm literally. I can say this now. I'm literally broadcasting from my mother-in-law's basement. So
There you go. The liberal bunker down there. This
is the bunker.
That is the liberal bunker.
He's got a year's supply of tofu, just in case.
Oh my God. And Boston baked beans down there. You got some baked beans down there?
Oh man, if I had a toilet and a microwave and a sink or something, I don't think I'd ever leave.
Wow.
my little hidey hole, literally.
Well, that's good, man. How you doing today, Mr. Battle, or this week, Mr. Battle? Oh, thank you so much for asking, brother. My week was a good week, man. We celebrated a birthday. It's always someone's birthday in my family. I have a child in every season. So every season I have a birthday. And we celebrated this week. We celebrated Layla Rose's birthday. So shout out to big Layla. She's 14 years old. So we give her props and everything.
Happy birthday.
Yeah, it was a COVID birthday. So, we had folks to drive up and hand her gifts, and we all wore masks and all of that kind of stuff. So it was definitely a little surreal, but it just marks where we are. I keep telling people we didn't have the Olympics this year because of the COVID. We're not having the Rose Parade this year because of the COVID, and we barely had an election. But thank God that turned out halfway decent. Well,
depends who you ask.
Okay, well, I won't.
George, you bring up a good point. That would be a pretty, we talk out here. We have these gimmicky names for, our offspring in California. What if you planned it so that you had one in every season, and you named them summer, autumn, winter, and spring?
You know what? Put that in Hollywood, and somebody will do it because now they got kids 7, 8. I don't even know some of the names of some of these celebrity children. You know, so I wouldn't be surprised. I wouldn't be surprised. That wouldn't be a great idea to have all your kids in different seasons. You know?
And if Hollywood doesn't take this, I'm going right to Nashville.
Going down. Nashville. Oh man. So this week was good, man. This week was good. No problems to report. We're still, still bunkered down, keeping ourselves safe, keeping everybody healthy, making sure that folks are remaining. We're still seeing major hikes with the COVID. Even though we're in it, there's a reason why we're doing this from a distance, but we're seeing major numbers in the COVID right now. So suffice to say, people are talking about lockdowns, but at this point, there's been no definite word of it. But we don't know. We're hoping that we can get through the winter. It's going to be hard to mandate people to stay at home during the holidays. It's going to be hard to mandate people how many people to actually be into a party. It's impossible. So
yeah,
we have to be responsible.
I got a real tough choice to make I have to make it today, actually.
What's going on with you?
I'm been invited to go to New York for Christmas. Looking into it, a lot of the airlines that previously had all the social distancing requirements silently, quietly no longer do. The only 2 airlines that still leave the middle seat open are Delta and Alaskan, and they're only going to do that through the beginning of January. So I have the time off work, and I really have nothing better to do, but I'd really feel guilty as hell if I got everyone sick. But those people who I could potentially get sick are the ones who are telling me to come. So I know that when you're in the same room with someone, the masks stay on for an hour, then they stay off guiltily for an hour, and then you hang out with them for a week and you forgot all about the mask. On the flip side, I don't want to live my life in fear. So on the flip side of that, I have health insurance in California, not nationwide. So every time I'm asked, I keep saying, give me one more week to decide. And the due date is today. So I have to figure this out.
Chris, it's tough. I'm a big proponent of not living in fear as well. Even doing this podcast, I've traveled, all around the country doing this podcast, and I'm determined not to live in fear. But I don't want to be stupid either, you see. And that's basically where the thin line goes. I'm not going to stop doing what I'm doing, but I'm going to plan what I do extremely well to make sure that I have the least likelihood of potentially getting the virus. And I'm going to suggest that you do the same. Of course, your family is watching, and they're going to see this, just like my family watches this as well. But the reality is that you have to do what's best, not only for you, but also for them. But regardless, I'm a firm believer that home is where you are. You have to, whatever you decide, you are Christmas. Christmas is in you. You don't you carry that wherever you go. The holiday spirit is in you. So just be encouraged. I tell everybody the same thing. Be encouraged and spread the cheer, spread the love, spread whatever your spirit usually does in the way that is possible to do so.
This has been a public service announcement from the Hallmark Channel.
Thank you.
Keep
Thank
Christmas
you.
in you.
I actually thought you were gonna compare. I thought you were comparing my physique to Santa Claus, but you kept it real sentimental. Hey, listen, so thank you for that.
Big shout out to all those folks on Facebook who have who subscribed to our channel, and who've really shown their support for the American Lunchbox podcast. Make sure you guys subscribe to our station as well, our YouTube station. And as you can see, that bod that Chris is talking about. If you haven't yet seen it, jump over there and subscribe and see the real Chris. This right here is just he purposely keeps the camera at a certain height You know,
Right.
so make sure you guys go over to the YouTube channel and see the Chris in HD, and that's but we're proud of him. He's working on it. You know, on this podcast you hear him talking about diets, maybe 1 or 2 episodes, and then you won't hear about it again. But but regardless of that, he's working on it. He's working on it, guys. Listen, he's working.
Hey, we're all working on it, man. We're all working on it.
We're all working on it.
It's a battle of the bulge. I know it, man.
And we love him just like he is.
Yep.
Don't change a thing.
You know it's bad when you remember that Uber driver comment that said, you know, you could use meth for like a week to lose some weight. I mean, it's not like you're a meth head.
Not like you're a meth head at all, but I mean, just think about it. Just think about it, you know? But one more thing before we got to get out of here, guys. And I know this may not be a topic that we can finish today, you know, but today I posted on our Facebook channel that the Zuckerberg and the Twitter dude with the good beard. I love that beard, by the way. They're CEOs of both of those companies are now sitting in front of the Senate, you know, in a committee meeting right now. A committee meeting right now, testifying as to how they basically censored the Republicans during the election, right before the election. And we talked about this on episode 14. We're going to dive into that, but I just wanted to give it a shout out because we talked about this in episode 14 well before it was happening. We knew this was going to happen, and we know why it happened. But we're going to talk about that once that's done, and we'll come back and put that in. But I just thought it'd be necessary to say that they're in the committee meeting right now, some 4 hours now. It's been 4 hours since they've been talking there. So, and I thought it'd be interesting. Well, guys, listen, it's been fun.
Yep.
I think we've had some technical issues. We lost Tim. Chris, your mic fucked up. You know, you fell down. I mean, this has been a wacky show, a wacky 16. Sweet 16 for us, ladies and gentlemen.
Is it 16 or 17?
This is.
I think it's 17.
Is it 17?
I think it's 17.
Oh, a sweet 17. We're almost legal to. We're not almost legal. We're almost able to go out and fight the war. You know, for the United States. Okay, we were almost 18. We're almost ready. We can't drink yet. We can't drink alcohol, but we're almost ready to go out and fill out our registration form for the United States military. We're almost at 18. We're at 17. Thank you, Tim. Any shout outs? What's going on? Chris, you got any shout outs for this episode?
Yeah, shout out to my stepsister, Danielle, and her company that she launched this year called Bella Serenity Soaps. And you can find them on Facebook and the web. They have an e-commerce store. And basically what they do is they make designer soaps. Some are like you might have a soap with a little orange peel in the middle, maybe lavender type of soap. And they smell real good. And they last long, and don't be surprised if USPS Santa delivers some in the Battle and Taylor stockings this year. So yeah, again, it's Bella Serenity Soap, and it's real good so far. She's a mom of 2 and a businesswoman, so she's really doing it all right now. And shout out to them.
Big shout out. Thank you so much. What's up with you, Tim? Any shout outs for you today, Tim?
Not this week. I think I'm good. I think I'll yield my time to the gentleman named Battle.
Thank you so much, my friend. Well, listen, I've given my shout outs already for doing the episode. I can't seem to wait to shout out time. I always crying out shout out shit. So I've already shouted out, but just want to say shout out to Layla, happy birthday. Shout out again to all our new Facebook subscribers. Please jump over to the YouTube stations and become a subscriber over there as well. If you're on Facebook, you should also be on YouTube. So definitely go over there and hit the subscribe button. We need the subs over there too. Thank you guys so much for listening. We'll be back next week, of course, to give you all what you need and what you ask for, more of American Lunchbox Podcast. Peace.